Welcome to This Organized Life. If you're a mom, wife, or coffee lover seeking advice on how to reduce clutter and reclaim time, look no further than your host, Lori Palau, founder of Simply Be Organized and author of Hot Mess, a practical guide to getting organized. For a lot of people, clutter is their dirty little secret, but it doesn't have to be. Each week, we will share practical tips, chat with experts, and provide strategies on how to keep you organized. I hope that by sharing our stories, you feel a little less alone and more empowered to tackle the areas that are holding you back. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life. I'm your host, Lori Palau. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll notice I'm not in my normal studio. So hopefully we sound okay. I'm recording from my home office out in the Hamptons. So I'm excited, though, because I'm joined by a great guest who, interestingly enough, the first time we spoke, I was also out in the Hamptons. So I feel like it's on brand that we are recording this episode while I'm out here. So today's episode is going to be great. We're talking all about organizing in your business. And my guest today is a woman named Kate Alpert. And Kate, I'm going to bring her out in a second. She runs an organization called Women Belong. And I'm going to allow her to do the actual official description, but essentially it's like a business networking organization, and it helps with connecting women with job opportunities with other women and coaching and mentoring. And it is really everything that they stand for is everything that we believe and practice and preach here, about lifting women up and supporting them however they need it at different seasons of our lives. And I know a lot of the people who watch or listen to this show are people who are in a period of transition professionally. Maybe they are looking to make a change in their corporate America job. Maybe they're looking to leave corporate America and start something on their own. Maybe they've been a stay-at-home parent and are now looking to return to the workforce. So there's any number of reasons why people make change, and that can be hard and it can be scary. And I know there's so much uncertainty right now just in the world. So having community around you is so important. But knowing where to find that or build that isn't always something that people, know where to look. It's like, oh, that sounds great, but having those resources is a whole other story. And that's why I wanted to bring Kate on. So I wanted to bring her on to share a little bit about what she does, but to also talk about how you can use like organization and networking in your business and have that be a skill set, just like you would in terms of building a habit and a routine for a morning routine in your home, or staying on top of the daily chores and responsibilities in your house when you're in either the job search or you're in that transition period. Approaching it from a strategic standpoint, having these organizational habits is really, really important. And so we're going to really focus in on that. But again, I am really excited to have this conversation. So without further ado, let me welcome my friend Kate to the show.
Lori, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am.
And I love the way that you explained Women
Oh,
Belong.
I was like, okay,
Right.
I am going full disclosure. I was like, I don't have a script in front of me. I don't have your website in front of me. I'm going from our conversation. So I'm glad I didn't bobble it
No, you
up.
did total justice. Total
Okay,
justice. Yes.
great.
I'll add that while we're a professional networking organization, what we do and our flavor of professional networking is to straddle the personal and professional. Because especially as women, we wear so many different hats of caregiver roles, and whether it's childcare, elder care, community care, right? We're the ones disproportionately bearing that burden and that labor. And so we really feel it's important to have a safe space where we can open up and share ourselves imperfectly perfect and do business networking that advances our business goals at the same time.
I love that because I think for so many people, and I'm thinking back to, I mean, this is going back, and Josh always rolls his eyes because it's been like over 15 years since I've been in like a corporate America space. So let's be honest, but I remember back in the day and going to like business networking events, and it was very siloed, right? Like we were, obviously it was a different climate of the world,
Yeah,
but I had my business hat on and it was very focused in exclusively and very siloed. And I love the fact that you're taking a more holistic approach because as women, and again, I'm going to target women just because that's our core demographic. We, it isn't like our lives aren't siloed. And
right.
so to be authentic and say, this is what I'm dealing with, or this is the type of opportunity that I'm looking for because I have all of these other balls in the air that I'm juggling, and be able to know that that's acceptable. And it's not like, oh, I'm just dumping all my problems on somebody else is refreshing at like to say the least.
Yeah, for me, when I was so my background's in marketing and I come from agency life and same, right? I never saw anybody sort of bring their personal stuff to work in that kind of way, right? Where they honored it. It was just don't show what's going on outside, right? Just veneer of perfection. And but I also kept wondering why there's no role models of like two men can go golfing and make a deal on a golf course, but like two women can't be at a park with two kiddos and they can be execs and closing big deals. And what's the difference, right? But there just
Totally.
isn't that archetype for any of us. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think that needs to be challenged.
So I couldn't agree more. So so give us just sort of the Cliff Notes version of how Women Belong came to be, where you're based out of, like some of the
Sure.
logisticy pieces of it.
My partner Dorothy and I founded Women Belong about a little over 8 years ago, and we're both based in the Chicago area. And we were part of other networking groups, right? Doing a lot of networking. She has a background. Both of us are in, we're have a background in marketing. Dorothy's background was in big agency running loyalty programs like United Mileage Plus and Starbucks rewards, right from the agency side. And she had left corporate and started a business doing health and wellness products. And I was in agency life and building a book of business with a new baby. And Dorothy was in another stage of life. She was acting as caregiver for her husband, who, as it turned out, was on his end of life journey. So a very different place in life. But when we met, she was running a group, a networking group, and holding space for people to show up vulnerably. And it was raw and real and something I had never been a part of before. And it was not on brand for like what this organization was. We were like a rogue chapter. And it was connecting the women in the room in a way that was so profound and so important. And we ended up marching in the Women's March, right? This is like 2016, 2017. And we just started talking about what is the future of networking? What can we do for women in a way that is different? And we said, this is different. And the way that we're coming together is different. And we want this for more women and have a bigger network of women that network in this way. And so without a lot of the fancy plans. We just said, let's build it. Let's go for it. And so we launched a group of 12 women in the Edgewater neighborhood of Chicago. And by the end of the summer, it was 4 groups. And now we're, yeah, coast to coast, Canada. We even have a global presence in Southeast Asia. So it's pretty crazy.
Wow. I
Yeah.
love that. And we'll have links
Yes.
in our show notes and all the things if you or if people are listening out there want to, connect up and find a group near them. And as you're talking, I think what I love about it, I mean, I love so many things about the story, but sometimes we just need that permission. We need somebody to say, "Oh my gosh," like yes. And you saw the organic growth that it had because there was obviously a need, right? You saw there was this gap, this in
Yeah.
for women in this space, two people coming from different seasons of life, but struggling with a lot of the same issues. And it's not unlike, because of course I tie everything back to organizing and decluttering, but it's not unlike my clients where you have people that are struggling to try to figure it out and don't know what the right next move is. And that can also be paralyzing, right? And it can be
Oh
exhausting
yeah.
and filled with shame and all these big emotions. And just being able to know that you're not alone
Yes.
and feel seen and heard is half the battle.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And knowing that you don't have to already know all the things, right? That like you can
Yes.
ask for help and likely there's somebody that has gone through it before and that can share what worked and what didn't work and how they did it and learning from each other, right? And yeah, and I think we just don't naturally do that because we want to present this air of perfection and competency, but why?
Yeah, like for why, for what? I don't
Yeah,
know. The
for
older
what?
I get, I'm like, I don't know how to do that. That is not in my wheelhouse. Sorry. I'm willing to learn or
Yes.
may, but you're going to need to walk me through that. And I say that with organizing and decluttering, I go, it's a learned skill. Not if you, especially if you haven't had healthy modeled behavior. If you are somebody who grew up in an era where you had a stay-at-home mom and a dad that worked at the same job
Hmm.
for his entire career, and you didn't know anybody, or maybe you're first generation going to college, getting like you don't have that modeled person of knowing what is the next step. And I even look at my girls in the workplace, and they're very fortunate because Josh has a lot of business connections and has been a great model for them. Granted, he's a guy, not a woman, but he has been able to educate them on certain things. And they've witnessed, not that they either one of them necessarily want to be entrepreneurs, but they've witnessed me running a business and the different hats that I wear. But if you don't have that, or you're in a field that is so completely different than anybody else in your ecosystem, it's very hard to know what the right air quote next move is. And it's like that with organizing and decluttering. If you're like, I grew up in a house that was filled with clutter, my mother never threw anything out. Well, that's what you know. You
Yes.
don't know the how to approach this. And so surrounding yourself with people that go, it's okay. And we can learn this and we can walk through it together. And it's okay to ask for help. So
And
um
like organizing, networking doesn't have a completion, right? There's always things that we can learn and grow and share and do it differently. And like, oh, that's a great way to do that. And yeah, we can bounce things off
And
each
you
other.
know what? You actually bring up a really good point that I didn't even think about till you just said that. I think the word networking has a very specific connotation.
Oh
At
yeah,
least it does for me. It conjures up this stuffy, very like everyone's got an agenda for themselves kind of a thing, like this force thing where I basically have this proverbial name tag on and you're passing out business cards. And it's just for some people that's uncomfortable, some people that gives them the ick or cheesy or whatever. I want you to kind of dispel that myth
for
and
sure.
really talk about like paint a picture of what networking in your world looks like.
For sure. We preface almost all of our events by orienting people to the fact that likely, we show up in networking and we're thinking we're here to sell, right? But when you really look at who else is in the room, how many people showed up to buy? Not many, right? If everyone's there to sell and you have no buyers, you're going to have a really unsuccessful event. So if you flip the script and you think rather about, I'm here to connect, I'm here to make connections, I'm here to build my Rolodex. I don't know if Rolodexes are relevant anymore.
You know what? I'm tracking with it.
Good, good. But I love the idea of almost like connecting contacts like Pokemon characters or whatever, right? Like you want to have the best of every different skill in your database so that you can be the person that's the go-to person for referrals. And having that organized and having it be a place you can like, oh, of course, I can pull this person up. I know I'm doing a good job networking when people call me for a referral on a dog walker. I do not own a dog. I'm allergic to dogs. I'm kind of scared of dogs, but I get asked about who a good dog walker is often because people know that I know where to find good people for things. And so I we really aim to train all of our members and community on that about growing their database of people that are experts in all the things. Because you don't know when you're going to need the things or people you know need the things, and you need to have a deep database.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm a connector by nature, all my tipping point people. Like that is my jam. I love that. And I always say I'm that person also. Like you move to my town and you need an OBGYN or a
Yes,
painting contractor, call me. Like I got and everyone knows it. And I love being that person. Like I like that. And I'm now in the receiving end living this in my house at our house out east because I need trustworthy people and we all connect with people. We by nature we hire people or surround ourselves with people that we know, like, and trust.
100%. Yes, we say
And
that all the time too. Yes,
and this is for all of my listeners who are professional organizers or aspiring professional organizers. The most, I would have to say, if I were to, write it, document it, the most popular question that I get asked is, how do I get clients? How do I get clients? How do I get clients? And I talk about in my mentoring, when I mentor and coach, about kind of like your spheres of influence. And ultimately, and I know that people get business from Instagram and this, that there are people that I'm not saying that there aren't other ways, but in my experience, it's all about connection. It's all about that personal
yes,
referral. It's all about who has used you that I value. And so when you approach networking from from my perspective, and I was literally just having a conversation with somebody unrelated about this, and I said, when you come from a place of value, as opposed to like you said, how can I sell? But like, tell me about you and how can maybe what I do support you or the people in your world, or how can I bring value as opposed to what can I get out of this?
yes, yes. And it's the soft skills too, because no one gets to see you do all the things they don't get to see you perform the services that you actually offer, right? People don't get to see me build a website before they hire me. People don't see somebody organize a closet before they hire them, but they do know if they're honest. They do know if they're personable, if they're a good listener. All those soft skills demonstrate why you get hired and why people refer you more than the actual thing that you do, right? That just goes with it.
Yes, yes, yes. And can you give some almost some like, I guess, some case studies, right? Maybe just talk a little bit about some of the success stories or things that you've seen from members. I mean, I'm sure you have lots of them,
Oh
but
my
like
gosh.
people,
I
because
mean, it's every day. So the way that our organization works, we have a number of different events, right? So we have something called our networking circles, which is kind of the backbone of the event. And the circles are run by member leaders. And those groups they meet 2 times a month. They reflect industry exclusive categories. Those members are part of groups that are location based, most of them. So it would be, Philadelphia, Calgary, Atlanta, groups all over. And those groups are always referring business to one another. That's part of their ethos, right? Is that they're making 2 referrals per meeting. So that's 4 per month, 12 per quarter. Their ongoing support of each other's business. Now, we look at referral sharing a little bit broader than maybe other referral
yeah,
leads
because I'm
groups.
like, oh my God, is that pressure? Like that was my first thing. It's
Yes,
like, oh my God, I have to like maintain a quota. Like,
Quota, yes. So there are other like leads groups out there that are more quota driven. We are not. We are more this is the goal, but we're women and we're busy, and so there's no punitive punishments in Women Belong. It's just right orient to
that's
what
what
we
we're
hope for
striving
them.
for. We're
Yes.
striving to always have our members on the top of mind.
Exactly. But we also look at sharing each other's thought leadership as a possible uh, referral, promoting each other's events. So always being mindful of like having things on the calendar that you're doing, having talks. Once a year, the members all do one 10-minute presentation called a spotlight. It becomes an opportunity to invite people to that meeting. It becomes an opportunity to promote it on social media for each other, and that can be a referral point. So it's really just building these muscles of having a talk, blogging, creating content, positioning yourself as a thought leader, referring each other. And all meetings have timed elevator pitches, right? So that we're practicing that elevator pitch and always having something fresh to talk about. So it's really, we call it a sandbox, really, because these meetings are really meant to be not salesy, again, but a connection point, and they weave in between personal and professional. But I mean, there's referrals being passed all day, every day, and collaborations between members happening all day, every day. And we constantly see women opening doors for other women and introducing them to their next best thing and collaborations happening in like the absolute most unusual ways. So one that I love that I'll share, a dentist and a poet. Okay.
Walk into a
Right?
bar.
Totally. Um, they have this, well, first of all, the dentist got introduced, my partner Dorothy introduced this dentist to the senior living facility that her mother was in. So the dentist is doing on-site dental care for the residents. Awesome. So that's one connection. Then there's a poet. The poet, then the dentist brings the poet in to do milestone poems that are commissioned by the families of the residents as like birthday gifts. Because what does a 90-year-old need, right? Nothing. But
Right.
a poem written in collaboration with everyone in their family is magic.
Oh, I
So,
just got chills. That's like
right?
amazing. Like, who even knew that was a thing?
That was the thing, right? And that's the kind of collaboration that like unfolds and you see it and you're like, this is so cool.
I
Um,
love it.
so yeah, that's an
I
example.
I love it. Okay, I have a question
Yeah.
that I feel like I can't be the only one that has this question because I remember when I was starting my business. Now my girls are grown now. I have a 24, 21-year-old. At the time, they were little and I was the primary caregiver. And so I wanted to, and I come from a sales and marketing background. So I'm not afraid of the networking. I'm not afraid of that, like even the salesy, like get up and speak for, whatever. That's fine. My biggest roadblock was finding the time because all of these networking events were either before breakfast, where I'm like, I'm trying to get my kids on the bus or they were like evening after work kind of happy hours. And I'm like, that's the witching hour. I'm trying to do
Yeah.
bath and bedtime and homework and all the things. And so for me, one of the things that we talk about here when it comes to clutter is we talk about calendar clutter, right? Not just the physical stuff, but we talk about like managing your day and your schedule and how do we reduce that overwhelm that we talk about as women is almost become like a badge of honor that we wear.
Yeah.
How does this play in? Because I might be listening, going, this sounds great. I need this, but I have all these other things. And this is just another thing on my to-do list.
Absolutely. Most of our meetings, now this is not the case for all, but most of our meetings are at 9:15 to 10:45 local time. So like after the drop off.
I was going to say after the kids are at preschool.
That's right. Over breakfast, if they meet in person, or some groups choose to meet online, so one or the other, and other groups are noon to 1:30. So it's really meant to be a lunch break, coffee break, and it's 2 times a month. So it's not a huge commitment of time. You're talking about 3 hours, or 3 hours, exactly. And then there's a handful of other meetings that we offer that are, an hour here, an hour there, online. Almost everything else we offer is online. And, we bring people together for an hour. It's a jam-packed hour, and then you're on your way. We have a speaker series, which Lori, you're going to be doing, and that's on third Fridays of the month, noon Central, right? So that it really is meant to be over a lunch hour, right? You could take
Mhm.
your lunch and watch and engage and learn. So um, we are very sensitive to not doing those 6 a.m.s and those evening ones because, right, women are busy, and especially if you've got young kiddos, it's impossible.
Yeah, and that I think is it was a real thing for me. And I know also, which I'm hoping the narrative is changing and hoping it's shifting with younger generations and people coming in. And I think it's important to have people like yourself out there that are giving people that permission. But I remember being like, I can't take any more time for myself, or I can't prioritize it. And I'm saying to all the women, especially if you are a solopreneur, right? Especially if you're an entrepreneur slash solopreneur, you you are doing yourself and your business a disservice by not like prioritizing working on your business.
I couldn't agree more. And the other reason that we've found that those 9 to 5 hours are so important is that the women that show up to those are women that are in their business. This is their primary business. And not that we can't support a side hustle, but it really needs to have tipped to at least I have time during this 9 to 5 hours that I'm prioritizing this business that I'm in. And when women are in that business, it shows and it demonstrates a level of commitment and they're working on it.
And from an organizing standpoint, we talk, I have a ton of free resources for people on my website. And one of the things I have, because I talk a lot about it, is like a time blocking template. And it's blocking that time. And you can get as granular or stay as broad stroke as you want. Some people like to really dive in and be like, from 9 to 10, I'm doing this, or from, 11 to 12, I'm doing this. Or you could just say, hey, on Thursday mornings, this is the time that I'm working on the business. And that could be any number of things. It means I'm either sending follow-up emails, or I'm going to a networking event, or doing research on blah, 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 blah. But I have found in my own, speaks from my own personal experience of, and was really important when I was first starting out, of treating that time as just as sacred as if it was time with a client,
100%.
because there's so many things that need to happen, that we need that like mental space to work on. And when you're constantly in that go mode, and we talk about it with decluttering, we talk about the three centers: thinking, feeling, doing. If all you do is operate in go do mode, and you don't have any time to use the analytical side or the emotional side of you and your business, you're not working at full capacity. So it's counterproductive. So I love this. It forces you in a healthy way to say, no, this matters.
Uh, yes. And part of the 2 time a month uh, rhythm, it makes you orient to what do I need? What am I working on? A couple times a month, right? So you can get out of that day to day and then look, be able to communicate to a table or a screen full of other people. This is what I'm working on right now. This is what I need help on. This is what I need feedback on. This is where I could use support, right? And we don't always take time otherwise to ask those questions about our business. And it's so valuable.
It really is. And being a solopreneur is, it can be very lonely. It can, we go through ebbs and flows. I've been in this for over 15 years and I still have moments, where I doubt myself and I need an accountability partner. So putting all of these key pieces of the puzzle are so, so important. Um, is there anything else that you want to add that maybe we didn't touch on?
Yeah, I mean, just to that point, I think, if you're responsible for the sales and the growth of your business, there's I forget how the saying goes, but if you're not hearing no a big enough percentage of time, you're not asking enough people, right? That like you should have a portion of no's in sales because otherwise you're not going for the next big thing and being at that growth margin. And it can be super defeating, right? To be told no and having a safe place to come to and share about your celebrations, because another part of the Women Belong meeting is we always end meetings with gratitudes and brags. And the reason for that is because centering ourselves and sharing that publicly about what we're grateful for, but also what we're bragging on, because then we can share our triumphs and our wins to a room full of people. Having that moment twice a month too is so valuable because it keeps you at that growth line of challenging yourself. And sometimes the women in the circles hold a much higher vision for us than we even do for ourselves. So hearing that echoed back is so valuable too.
I love that. I love that. And as you were speaking, I thought of something else. Now, like I said, I'm an extrovert. I'm an Enneagram 8, so I'm super direct and I don't like, if you say no, you're not going to hurt my feelings, but I know that the whole like sales aspect for a lot of people in their business is really uncomfortable and icky and foreign. I have a friend of mine who's an interior designer and she's extremely talented, but the thought of like selling her services to people is like, ew. But this is such a great opportunity for for anybody, but specifically for somebody that isn't comfortable putting themselves out there because it allows other people to sell for you, in lack of a better word, right?
Yes.
You don't have to go out there and sing your own praises because you've got this room of other people that are telling people about you. And it's always easier to talk about other people and share how wonderful they are in whatever they do than it is to talk about yourself. And
100%.
so for the person that's listening out there that might go, I have a organizing business or I have another business and I feel like I don't know what else to do. I don't even have a big budget. I can't, I don't want to do traditional marketing or whatever. Having that personal endorsement from somebody else being like, this person is great. I've seen them. I know them. I trust them is worth like any ad dollar, worth more than any ad dollar you could ever spend. And I truly believe that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Wi- Part of the format of the circles is inviting guests, right? And when you bring your guests to the meeting, and then all of a sudden, all the women in the room edify you and say how awesome you are in front of your guest that maybe is a prospect also, right? And then all of a sudden, you're lifted up and your guest is feeling like, man, I came with a real expert person, right? It's such a cool thing. And it just goes so much further than trying to sing your own praises,
I love
right?
it. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to sing your praises, Kate Alpert, and we're going to sing the praises of Women Belong because I think what you're doing, what you've built, what you're continuing to build is incredible. I think it's much, much needed for women all over, especially women that are in transition. I think it seems to me, even if you are thinking about going back into the workforce, I have so many friends who are in this kind of pivotal transitional period in their life and they don't know what to do. And just getting out there to meet people in different professions and learn what's out there and just just get to know other people, I think is so, so valuable. And to be able to do it in a safe space is great. And so thank you. And I'm so glad that we had the chance to meet. Tell our listeners, where is the best place for them to connect up, learn more, all the things?
Yes, womenbelong.com. That's WOMEN belong.com. And you can get access to events. The vast majority of our events are open for non-members and guests to come and check it out. Many are offered free, some at low cost. There's also, you can get a free one-to-one guide, which is really helpful, just to organize around what you're going to talk about in a one-to-one and the questions to ask in a one-to-one, so that when you are meeting with another business person, you can just be super effective. So yeah, womenbelong.com.
I love it. I love it. Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I love being able to talk about organizing from a different perspective and realizing that there's so many different elements to living an organized life. And this one is equally as important as making your bed every day and making sure that there's meals on the table. We gotta, as women, make sure that we're prioritizing ourselves and our businesses and our mental health. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. You picked a great episode to find us. If you are an OG, thank you so much. If you know somebody that can benefit from this episode specifically, please click that share button. We really appreciate it. You can find us all over socials or on YouTube, This Organized Life podcast. Until next week, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please spread the love and share it with your friends. And if this is your first time joining us, make sure to click the subscribe button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, please leave us a review so other people know that our show is worth the listen. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at This Organized Life Podcast. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can head on over to our website at simply the letter B like boy organized.com, which is filled with tons of resources, including free downloads, checklists, links to our amazing organizing partners, and all of our digital offerings. I'll see you next week for another episode of This Organized Life.